He had the looks, he had the money, he had the fame. And yet, for most of his adult life, he remained untouched by one of the most universally expected rights of adulthood: sex. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the moonwalker who danced across the stage and into the hearts of millions, held on to his virginity until the age of 35. To many, this seemed like a paradox, a global icon surrounded by beauty, glamour, and opportunity, yet untouched in a way most wouldn't imagine. The world speculated endlessly, offering theories ranging from eccentricity to asexuality. But the most compelling explanation didn't arrive until 8 years ago, when two psychologists published a study revealing 5 distinct personality traits commonly found in individuals who remain virgins well into adulthood. Michael Jackson, as it turned out, exhibited all 5. Among them, the most dominant in his case was what scientists label high neuroticism. This trait, deeply rooted in emotional instability, makes a person more prone to anxiety, self-doubt, and negative emotions. People with high neuroticism often experience the world as a place filled with potential threats: emotional, physical, and social. They become hypersensitive to criticism, and any perceived rejection hits them like a bullet. For Michael, this sensitivity wasn't just hypothetical, it deeply shaped how he related to others. He dated high-profile women that the average man might only dream of approaching. Tatum O'Neal, Brooke Shields, even the ever-provocative Madonna all entered his orbit. But Jackson never seemed to go beyond hand-holding, conversation, or perhaps a chaste kiss. Publicly, he was romantic. Privately, he hesitated, because behind his soft voice and glittering glove was a man tormented by the suspicion that these women might not truly desire him, but rather the icon he represented. Was it Michael they wanted, or the legend? The man, or the money? Lisa Marie Presley was different. As the daughter of Elvis Presley, she understood the world of fame and fortune from the inside. She didn't need Michael's money, nor was she impressed by his celebrity. She had seen it all before, grown up in it, and survived it. Perhaps that was why Michael finally let his guard down, and at the age of 35, allowed himself the vulnerability that intimacy requires. With her, he crossed that invisible line between emotional longing and physical connection. What Michael experienced is a textbook example of what psychologists now call rejection sensitivity. This condition, rooted in both biology and psychology, describes a predisposition to interpret neutral or ambiguous cues as signs of rejection. It's not just overthinking, it's a neurochemical default setting. When someone with rejection sensitivity walks into a room and sees someone glance away, they don't think, maybe they're distracted. Instead, they think, they're avoiding me. This constant emotional vigilance leads to social withdrawal, especially in romantic contexts. The fear of being unwanted or laughed at becomes more powerful than the desire for connection. Thankfully, there are ways to manage this. From the psychological angle, one strategy is to flip the assumption. Start by presuming every person you meet likes you, not in a narcissistic way, but as a temporary working theory. Then, look for evidence to the contrary. If none appears, allow yourself to believe in the possibility of acceptance. In practice, this means reframing situations. If someone takes a while to respond to your message, don't assume disinterest. Consider that they might be busy or unsure how to reply. If their body language seems neutral, don't interpret it as rejection unless it's overt. The second solution comes from biology, or more specifically, from our ancient animal cousins. In the wild, when an animal narrowly escapes a predator, it doesn't just walk away with psychological trauma. Instead, it immediately undergoes something called a neurogenic shake, a full-body trembling that discharges the stored survival energy. This involuntary tremor turns psychological stress into physical motion, allowing the nervous system to reset. Dr. David Berceli, in his book the revolutionary trauma release process, describes how humans can activate this natural mechanism to release stress and emotional blocks. The process is surprisingly simple. Lie on your back, place the soles of your feet together, and let your knees fall open like butterfly wings. Then lift your pelvis slightly off the floor and hold that position. After about a minute, you may begin to notice subtle leg tremors, which can rise up the body. This is not just physical, it's the body's way of releasing suppressed tension, including the kind that fuels rejection sensitivity. Over time, incorporating this practice can help quiet the overactive parts of the brain that scream danger in social situations. But neuroticism is just one part of the puzzle. The second trait identified by researchers in late-life virgins is high conscientiousness. This trait is typically celebrated. It denotes responsibility, organization, and strong moral principles. People with high conscientiousness are often goal-oriented, disciplined, and focused. But ironically, these same strengths can hinder their romantic lives. Highly conscientious individuals often delay dating in favor of education, career, or personal development. They tend to view relationships as serious investments and avoid casual flings. That's admirable. But it can also mean they miss key windows for social and sexual exploration in early adulthood. Furthermore, they often avoid alcohol, which, while healthy, removes one of the most common social lubricants in dating environments. Interestingly, this conscientious drive doesn't have to clash with romance. In Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gray explains how different genders perceive romantic effort. For men, a grand gesture, say, buying a car, is like hitting a home run. That one act buys goodwill for years. But women, according to Gray, don't keep score like that. For them, every kind or thoughtful act has the same weight. Giving a small gift on Valentine's Day is just as important as a big anniversary present. So, a conscientious man doesn't need to make massive investments in time or money to maintain a relationship, just consistent, thoughtful ones. This insight changes the game. You don't need to abandon your disciplined nature to date successfully. You just need to channel it in a way that fits the emotional currency of relationships. Small, repeated acts of kindness matter more than infrequent, grand gestures. Still, many conscientious individuals find themselves held back by another trait: low openness. This third personality feature reflects a discomfort with novelty and a preference for the familiar. People low in openness may dislike new experiences, ideas, or social risks. They are loyal to their routines, often to a fault. And in the dating world, this can mean staying stuck in the same behavioral loop for years. A historical example of someone who turned this limitation into a strength is Honoré de Balzac. Short, overweight, and often described as unattractive, Balzac didn't stand a chance against the handsome soldiers of France, but he was observant. He noticed that while most men competed for the attention of young, beautiful women, older, more complex women were overlooked. These women, in their 30s, were dismissed by a youth-obsessed culture. So Balzac wrote A Woman of 30, a novel that celebrated mature women as passionate, intelligent, and worthy of desire. The result? Thousands of letters from such women poured in. Balzac, the unlikely romantic hero, had created a niche for himself by daring to go where others wouldn't. Today, the same principle applies. Dating markets have blind spots, opportunities hidden in plain sight. A study conducted just 2 years ago revealed that 59% of men didn't approach a single woman in the past year. Even more startling, 29% of men have never approached a woman in their life. Meanwhile, 77% of women aged 18 to 30 reported wishing they were approached more often. This disparity shows not only a crisis of courage, but also an open opportunity for those willing to take small social risks. But doing that requires one more shift, one tied to the fourth trait: low extroversion. And here's the thing. Being introverted is not the same as being shy. Being introverted is not the same as being shy. Introversion is simply a preference, a tendency to recharge alone or in small, familiar groups, rather than in loud, high-stimulation environments. Shyness, on the other hand, is rooted in fear of judgment, of embarrassment, of being socially rejected. Introverts can be confident. They can be assertive, eloquent, and socially competent. But because they naturally avoid large gatherings or high-volume social activities, they often miss out on the organic ways many relationships begin, through repeated exposure and interaction. Fortunately, introversion isn't a life sentence of isolation. Social skills, like any skill, can be learned and practiced. One of the most effective ways to become socially fluent without becoming someone you're not is to approach people using strategies that feel natural and non-intrusive. For instance, a subtle but powerful method is to ask for a small favor. Do you have a pen I could borrow? Or, can you watch my seat for a minute? These micro-interactions are disarming. They invite participation without pressure. And according to the Ben Franklin effect, people actually grow to like you more after they've done you a favor. The theory goes that our brains try to resolve cognitive dissonance. If I did something nice for this person, I must like them. It's reverse logic, but it works. Another low-pressure way to initiate conversation is to make a simple, confident statement. Something like, "I love the music they play here," or "This coffee place always smells amazing." If the person you're speaking to isn't interested, they'll likely ignore you or give a polite smile. No harm done. But if they're open to conversation, they'll respond with agreement, a comment of their own, or a question in return. From there, the dialogue has a foothold. But how do you keep that conversation going naturally? That's where the gain-loss theory becomes your secret weapon. The gain-loss theory says that we're more attracted to people whose affection for us seems to increase over time. It triggers our social reward system. For example, if someone initially seems indifferent but gradually warms up, we perceive that change as proof of genuine interest. Conversely, if someone is immediately very enthusiastic and then cools off, we interpret that as manipulation or disinterest. In practice, this means you don't have to impress someone immediately. In fact, it might be better if you don't. A little initial restraint, followed by sincere engagement, makes people feel like they earned your attention, and that makes it more valuable. Here's how you might use this technique in real time. Start with a neutral statement like, "I never know what to order here. I always get the same thing." Then gently introduce a topic with some psychological depth. It's funny how people's coffee habits say a lot about them. Some people are all about variety, while others, like me, stick with what they know. If the person responds, you can feign light-hearted disappointment. "Ah, you're one of the adventurous ones. I usually like routine types." This creates playful friction, enough to spark chemistry without tension. What you're doing in this moment is more than just talking. You're offering emotional contrast, unpredictability, and authenticity, elements that introverted people can bring to a conversation without needing to dominate it. You're not trying to be loud. You're trying to be interesting. And that brings us to the fifth and final trait associated with late-life virgins: high agreeableness. Agreeableness, like conscientiousness, is generally viewed as a positive quality. Agreeable people are cooperative, empathetic, considerate. They avoid conflict and strive to maintain harmony. But in the realm of attraction, being too agreeable can be a disadvantage. Why? Because when you constantly accommodate others, suppress your own preferences, and say yes to everything, you become emotionally ambiguous. People don't know where you stand. They don't know what you truly value. And in relationships, especially in the early stages, certainty and authenticity are key. Human beings evolved to detect incongruity. If your words don't match your tone or your smile doesn't reach your eyes, we notice, and it creates discomfort. Agreeable people, in an effort to please, sometimes smile through frustration, nod through boredom, or agree with things they internally oppose. That incongruence builds a barrier to connection. Even worse, it can come across as manipulative, even if the intention is good. Women, in particular, tend to be more drawn to polarizing men, those who stand firmly for something, even if it's controversial. Not because they want conflict, but because decisiveness signals strength, confidence, and identity. A person with strong opinions shows that they're not afraid to be disliked. And that courage is attractive. So, how do you balance being kind without being overly agreeable? The answer lies in emotional contrast. You can be polite, empathetic, and respectful, but you must also express your preferences, your limits, and your dislikes. If you don't like a movie, say so. If you disagree with a point, gently express your view. This doesn't mean picking fights. It means showing that you have a spine. In doing so, you become more readable, more trustworthy, and more desirable. In a conversation, this can play out like this. Imagine someone says they love spicy food. Instead of nodding in agreement, even if you don't, try this. Really? I can't handle anything spicier than ketchup. I wish I had your courage. This is not just honesty. It's playful contrast. You're not being difficult. You're being human, vulnerable, real. Another tool to break the agreeableness pattern is to express disappointment in a way that's humorous, not harsh. You don't like dogs. I was really rooting for you. This creates tension, but the playful kind that invites flirtation. You're not punishing. You're teasing. And in doing so, you make the other person feel seen and challenged, which are two of the most powerful emotional triggers in early attraction. All of this underscores a simple truth. Late virginity, despite cultural stigma, is not a personal failing. It is often the result of psychological patterns, some of which are protective, some of which are misaligned with modern dating dynamics. But each of these patterns is changeable. High neuroticism can be managed through body-based stress techniques and cognitive reframing. High conscientiousness can be softened with reminders that relationships thrive on frequency, not perfection. Low openness can be expanded through targeted risks in overlooked social spaces. Low extroversion can be trained, like a muscle, with safe and structured social exercises. And high agreeableness can be balanced with just enough friction to make your presence felt and remembered. What all these traits have in common is that they are not fixed. They are habits of perception and behavior, and habits, when illuminated, can be reshaped. The dating world is not a meritocracy. It doesn't reward the smartest, the richest, or the kindest people by default. It rewards visibility, vulnerability, and authenticity. And those who remain on the sidelines often do so not because they are unworthy, but because they are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect person, or the perfect version of themselves. But perfection is the enemy of intimacy. Because intimacy requires imperfection. It requires you to show up flawed, unsure, maybe even a little scared, and to let someone see you anyway. That moment, when you risk being seen and accepted, is the moment everything begins to change. And no matter your age, your past, or your profile, that moment is still available to you. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to force yourself into loud parties or reinvent your entire identity. You simply need to become a little more courageous in your truth, a little more curious about others, and a little more willing to get it wrong in order to get it right. And once you do, you may find that the version of yourself you've been guarding all these years, the thoughtful, principled, deep-feeling version, is exactly what someone out there has been hoping to find all along. And once you do, you may find that the version of yourself you've been guarding all these years, the thoughtful, principled, deep-feeling version, is exactly what someone out there has been hoping to find all along. Because here's the hidden truth. The longer you've waited, the more likely it is that you've developed depth. You've lived through seasons of isolation, ambition, disappointment, and reinvention. You've built resilience. You've become more reflective, more emotionally aware. That depth might not always make you the loudest voice in the room, but it does make you someone worth listening to. And in the landscape of relationships, where connection often begins at the surface but flourishes beneath it, depth is your quiet superpower. The narrative around late-life virginity needs rewriting. For decades, pop culture has portrayed virginity past a certain age as comical or tragic, a punchline rather than a path. But many people arrive at sexual and romantic milestones on timelines that don't fit the societal mold. Some wait out of trauma, others due to circumstance, others because they simply hadn't yet found someone who made them feel safe enough to cross that threshold. And in all of those cases, the decision was never one of failure. It was one of protection, caution, or hope. Even the most normal dating stories are rarely as seamless as they appear. People struggle with insecurity, heartbreak, ghosting, betrayal, and longing, regardless of how many partners they've had. Virginity is not a marker of immaturity, nor is sex a definitive proof of emotional success. Intimacy is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered at any age. One of the greatest tools for building intimacy is not seduction, it's presence. When you're fully present with someone, listening not to respond but to understand, asking questions not to impress but to connect, you begin to unlock something that is far more rare and powerful than physical chemistry. You unlock emotional safety. And emotional safety is what allows people to let down their guards, share their fears, and build trust. Presence doesn't require experience, it requires attention. And attention is something you've likely sharpened in your years of observation, introspection, and patience. That said, if you want to start building romantic momentum after years of stillness, you'll need to take consistent action, even if small, not impulsively, but deliberately. This begins with reshaping your environment. If your daily routine doesn't put you in contact with new people, no amount of mindset shifts will matter. You must engineer opportunities for connection. This doesn't mean jumping into speed dating or clubs if that's not your style. It means finding shared interest environments where people naturally interact. Language classes, hiking groups, cooking workshops, book clubs, volunteering initiatives. These spaces provide two critical advantages: mutual interest and repeated exposure. Psychologists call it the mere exposure effect. The more we see someone, the more we tend to like them, especially when interaction is low pressure. And once you're in these environments, the goal isn't to find the one instantly. The goal is to develop social fluency, to relearn the subtle dance of eye contact, humor, shared silences, and vulnerability. These are muscles, and like any underused muscle, they grow stronger with repetition. You will stumble. You might get ignored. You may feel awkward. That's not failure. That's progress disguised as discomfort. You may also be tempted to compare yourself to others, to friends, celebrities, or the endless highlight reels on social media. But comparison is a trap, especially in matters of the heart. No one's love story is linear. The people who seem to have it all often carry hidden wounds. What matters isn't how fast you move, it's how authentically you do. Genuine connection will always outrun polished performance. As you begin this journey, you might find yourself wondering, how will I know when I'm ready? The truth is, readiness is rarely a feeling. It's a decision. You decide to show up, even if you're nervous. You decide to speak up, even if you're unsure. You decide to take the risk of being seen, knowing that rejection is a possibility, but also a teacher. Rejection, in fact, is an essential part of this process. It is not a mirror of your worth. It is simply feedback, sometimes about compatibility, sometimes about timing, and sometimes about the other person's own internal world. Learning to face rejection without collapsing is one of the most liberating experiences you can have. It builds emotional calluses, not to harden you, but to protect your inner confidence. And the more you experience rejection without letting it define you, the more powerful you become. Because now, the fear that once held you back loses its grip. Now you move not to impress, but to express. Not to prove, but to explore. And that shift is magnetic. People can sense when you are no longer chasing approval, but offering authenticity. It's the difference between a performance and a presence. If you ever feel like you're behind, remind yourself that the world is filled with people looking for exactly what you have to offer: depth, sincerity, curiosity, and emotional availability. But they cannot find you if you remain hidden behind hesitation. You don't need to become louder, flashier, or someone you're not. You simply need to step forward with your truth in hand and your guard slightly lowered. Your story doesn't need to follow anyone else's timeline. Michael Jackson, despite being one of the most famous men on the planet, didn't experience sexual intimacy until his mid-30s. Honoré de Balzac, unattractive by the standards of his day, became a romantic icon through the power of observation and writing. Countless others, nameless to history, have navigated their own private journeys through longing, delay, and finally, arrival. What ties them all together is not that they were late, but that they were ready when it mattered, and readiness in the end is the only clock that counts. So if you've been waiting, whether consciously or by circumstance, know this: nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken, cursed, or doomed. You are simply standing at a different intersection than most. And at that intersection lies an opportunity to love more deeply, connect more honestly, and relate more consciously, because you have taken the long way there. And sometimes, the long way offers the best view. So take the first step. Shake off the weight of the past, literally, if you have to. Lay down on your back, bring the soles of your feet together, lift your hips, and feel the tremor rise through your legs. Let it move through you. Let it tell your nervous system, you're safe now. The moment you feared, the one you built a fortress to avoid, has passed. Now you're free. Free to learn. Free to laugh. Free to connect. Free to fail and try again. And maybe, just maybe, free to love. For the first time, or the first time in a long time. Not as the person you think you're supposed to be, but as the one you've quietly been becoming all along.